So guys, sometimes I just keep wondering if Kenneth Okonkwo and Dele were born on the same day. I mean, the fearlessness in these two men has no measure. You need to listen to what Kenneth Okonkwo said in this video. We know that Tinubu granted an interview. They call it media chat with the president. During that interview, he said Nigerians should go and learn management. Nigerians should learn how to manage. They should learn how to live within their means. Nigerians should learn how to manage their electricity and all that. I mean, there are things that Tinubu said in that interview that has sparked so much controversy online. And Kenneth Okonkwo was asked some questions as regards to that. You need to see how he fired at Tinubu. I mean, the boldness in this man, the fearlessness in him, you know that these are people who are standing for nothing but the truth. I mean, Dele, Kenneth Okonkwo, they don't care to know what the establishment thinks about them. They are just there to say things the way it is. In short, without much talking, just take a look for yourself and you will confirm with me that these are men of integrity. These are men that want Nigeria to progress. These are men that want the best for this country. They are not saying it because they want to be noticed. They are saying it because you cannot fault them when it comes to corruption and standing with evil or for evil. Just take a look for yourself.
To learn to manage. You learn to control your electricity bill, switch off the light. Let's learn to manage. Well, we should teach management with all our programs. We have to manage our resources within our means.
Media chat. It's the first time he's done it since he came into office.
Well, it's very regrettable. First and foremost, in a democracy, which requires transparency and accountability to the people, a president is having the first presidential chat 19 months after taking over power. That's about 40% of his presidency. 19 months is about 40% of the 4-year term of a president. We have to stop all this nonsensical giving kudos to failures. For 19 months, you've not been able to tell Nigerian people what you have been doing. And you started doing wrong things from the day you were sworn in.
But he has been speaking. He has done briefings. He has been giving speeches. He's been explaining himself since he came into office.
Democracy is not about your talking to the people. It's about your being interrogated by the people. The Constitution says the participation of the people in their government shall be ensured. The people participate through their representatives, both from the media, both from any policy you want to do, has to be interrogated by the people. Democracy is not just about doing what is good for the people, it is also about doing what the people want. Now, let's come to the nitty-gritty of the presidential media chart. There were about 4 major branches of what he said. Talked about the stampede, talked about cost of governance, talked about corruption, talked about the tax reform bill. These are about the major areas. About the stampede, this president shifted all the responsibility to the organizers, people who wanted to help people who are hungry. Let me tell you, this stampede happened in the east. It happened in the west. It happened in the north. That means it's now a general thing that Nigerians from all sectors are hungry and things are hard. They did not die in stampede because they were poor. Poverty exists in every country. They died in a stampede because they were desperately hungry. In other words, they know that if they don't have that food, they don't even have anything to fall back in their house. And that is why they had to struggle for 5,000 naira and for grains of rice. The worth of life in Tinubu's government is now about 5,000 naira and it's about grains of rice. Look at what happened in Abuja, in the Catholic ministry. They've been doing that for decades. They've been doing that for years. Why is today's own different? It is different because people have become desperately hungry. When people say negligence of the people organizing it, people that were expecting like 500 persons and they saw 5,000 persons, they wouldn't have reasonably assumed that 5,000 persons will come. And when the 5,000 persons came, they would have been able to organize themselves if they were not desperate. But because they were desperate, they did not wish to ever live there without having anything. Having seen that more people came, they knew that some people would live there without anything. So they had to now struggle to make sure that they are part of the beneficiaries. That is a sign of a failed state, struggling and dying for the most basic necessity of life, food. When the president visited Lagos the first time, his own people started it. We are hungry, sir. And he said things are well. His dim-wit fellow people that are serving him will go to him and say things are well. And when he neglected those signs, by August, the whole nation, they were protesting for hunger and hardship. They neglected it. In December, people are now dying of stampede for food for 5,000 naira. Now, and he said, it is the fault of the organizers, fault of the people that want to help. You are incompetent government that cannot cater for the security and welfare of its people. Now again, let's move into the issue of cost of governance.
We'll get to the cost of governance, but I want to get Mr. Onokpasa to respond to that. Mr. Onokpasa, well, Mr. Kenneth has said he's finding some issue with the president's views on the stampede. Where do you stand?
Well, the stampede is most unfortunate. May the lives that were lost, may their souls rest in peace. I think the real problem is that we have just failed woefully in producing food for our citizens. You know, when we are campaigning for this administration, the people were calling us Agbadorians, you know, because our president was always talking about producing food. Unfortunately, we don't seem to be able to produce the food, you know, and you just have to accept that's our fault, you know. The good thing about agriculture is that you can plant a crop today and harvest in 3 months, in 6 months, in 1 year, you know, and try to convince our president just to concentrate on food production. Even if we cannot reduce the price of fuel or whatever else, let our people have food to eat. Let our citizens have food to eat. You know, Kenneth is trying to be overly political about the matter. That's just who my dear brother Kenneth Okonkwo is. Okay. May their souls rest in peace. You know, and it's a shame that we have allowed prices to skyrocket, especially of food. You know, of food. Let people just have food to eat. That's my take on it.
I mean, that's a very interesting dynamic. I mean, an admission, because you are a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress, that is an admission of failure, you know, and one that I think you're standing by.
No.
Because what you said in the beginning of this conversation was, we have failed. What did I hear it wrongly? He said, we have failed to provide food for our people, and that is just it. That was what you said. So are you admitting that as a party, in governance when it comes to food production for the Nigerian people has the party failed?
Yes, no. Because we did not concentrate on food, on providing food for our citizens. Because we did not.
I mean, I'm still hearing the same thing from you, Mr. Okonkwo. We'll get back to you, Mr. Onokpasa, on that, but that does sound like an admission of failure.
Well, I so much enjoy my brother Onokpasa because he seems reasonably honest. I used the word failure I think about once, and he used the word failure about 5 times. So, and yet he said I'm political, and actually he re-echoed more than myself. But having said that, God forbid that I will play politics with the destiny of Nigeria.
Because that is what the All Progressive Congress accused opposition. Actually, it was the PDP that they were responding to.
Yes,
and they said you're playing politics with this.
That is the cheap blackmail that failures always do. Rather than addressing the issue, they shift the responsibility. Have you ever seen this government? When they say they take responsibility, I wonder which responsibility? The worst statement the president made in the presidential chart is scoring himself excellent. He said he has done excellent job. The man that is staying with me in this studio is an Abadorian. And he said we have failed. Was that not an admission that this president has done the worst job by any president since independence? And I always place my facts on the table. What are the facts on the table? This president, in the last 12 months, we have had national grid collapse for more than 12 times. It has never happened in Nigerian history. Meaning, the power is not accessible, it is not available, it is not affordable. This president, between October and November, and this is a president that is priding itself or himself that security has improved. More than 2,496 people have been murdered and about 1,757 persons kidnapped between October and November. This is a president in that presidential chart said we should cut our cloth according to him, according to his body. But thank God you have said good. Now, this is the president that is driving the most expensive car in the history of president of Nigeria, limousine beast, that cost Nigeria almost ₦1 billion. This is the president that had a presidential jet working, but he went for a new one, 150 billion naira. And this is the president that is saying, cut your cloth according to your size. So in the area of what has he excelled to award himself excellent?
Let's find out what Mr. Onokpasa thinks. Mr. Onokpasa, was the president right to score himself excellent?
Well, no, I must admit that, because I must just admit that it was not right, because we ought to be able to feed our citizens, and it's very, very easy to do that. You just you simply just get the people to go to farm. You mobilize them to go to the farm and produce food, and unfortunately we've not been able to do that, and that is even us in our party. We feel a bit bad about what that our president has not been able to mobilize Nigerians to produce food for our citizens.
You do seem very. I'm listening to you right there. You do seem very saddened, and like Mr. Kenneth Okonkwo said, reasonably honest in your assertions this morning. What would you think? What would be a score? What would be the score? Because what the president did yesterday was score himself excellent. What would be your score for his governance style this year, at least?
Well, I can't. I'm a Catholic, Killer. I'm a Catholic, and we have not done well. That's the truth. Simple.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll get back to you. An admission there from Mr. Onokpasa. He's an APC chieftain saying we have not done well. Is that a step in the right direction? At least if someone from the party, from the All Progressives Congress, is saying, look, we haven't done well. Is that a step in the right direction at least? Maybe we're on the road to recovery, maybe.
If the president has been listening to the Onokpasas of this world, he would have been performing better in office. But he's listening to people who are telling him he's excellent. And he will come to the whole world to be saying he's calling himself excellent on the graves of about more than 70 persons that died on the eve of that call to himself because of food. What is the level of conscience that we need for a man to be compassionate for his people? Look, the facts are there. Facts are sacred. This same president, when he was told about corruption, how to fight corruption, he said, oh, I will fight corruption. We are fighting it. How? We increase the wages of the people. Oh, we are allowing people to go to school, education. Let me tell you, corruption since the fall of man in Garden of Eden is innate in human nature. And the only thing that can deter people from being corrupt is deterrence, punishment for corruption. This president has just revealed that he does not intend to punish anybody that is corrupt in his administration. The only thing that will make him to punish anybody is when you are no longer loyal. And it happened with the humanitarian ministry. I was here when I told you it was optics. How many months now? Have those people been tried? You suspended, you removed. Has that person been tried? Now, when he talked about he is increasing the wages of people, when this president came in, the minimum wage in Nigeria was $60 per a person. Today is about $46 per person, less than $2 a day. And then you're talking about you're fighting corruption by increasing minimum wage, when actually the value of the minimum wage has reduced. That means he is actually increasing the propensity for corruption. Because you talk about currency, not in the quantity of it, but in the quality of it. $1 has remained $1 since I was born. The value of it changing maybe about 6% or 10%. More than 56 years of my existence on earth. In 1984, we could pride ourselves that $1 was equal to 1 naira. Today, 1,900, it reached that point, was equal to $1. So we have failed about 1,900% times since that time. And there is a president sitting down telling you he's excellent. Now, let me tell you about the subsidy that he talked about. Petrol price is not 1,000 naira because of removal of subsidy. When subsidy was removed, the price came to about 517 naira to a liter. What cost the per liter fuel to reach 1,000 something is the devaluation of the currency. Now, economically, any president that is sound economically, you do not devalue your currency when you are a net importer of resources. When he devalued that currency, Nigeria was importing 100% of refined products. What it meant was that you have made your importation more costly than your exportation. And then even the government could not afford that price. That was why they had to introduce some kind of subsidy again. They removed it completely. But because of the devaluation of Naira by more than 300%, from about 500 naira to 1,700, and it jacked up the price of fuel to about 1,000, more than 1,000. So the issue here is that there is a government that is lacking in knowledge, in economics, in emotional intelligence, and in reality. They are living in alternate universe. The problem with this government is that they are bold to take decisions, but they want to extort all the sacrifice from the people. So when they made the mistake of the devaluation, they allowed the whole impact of their mistake to fall on the people.
I want to be able to.
People are paying through their nose for the incompetence and corruption of this regime.
I want to be able to get what the president said. Let's listen to him when he talked about palliatives. Let's listen to what the president had to say about that.
It is very sad that people are not well organized. We just have to be more disciplined in our society. Okay. Condolences to those who lost the family members. But it is good to give. Every society, even in America, they have food banks. They have hungry people. In Britain, they have food bank. They have warehouses. They are organized. They take tokens to be in line and take turns to collect. It's unfortunate. We just have to. It's a reflection in our bus stops where we don't even want to be on queue before we rush into the vehicle. It is very sad, but we continue to learn from our mistakes. To me, I see this as a very grave error on the part of the organizers. But things are improving. It doesn't kill our happiness for this season. It should be. We should just get on with it.
I mean, I think those were the words that really got you upset in the beginning of our conversation, and I think in many ways those words from the president have affected Mr. Onokpasa in a way where he couldn't. The Mr. Onokpasa that we know would have been a strong defender, and he's admitting, saying no, this was not good. He didn't like it very much. At the time, you also mentioned, the president's stand on the cabinet reduction.
Oh yes,
because that was one of the conversations that was had. I think it was Mr. Babajide Titoju who asked him yesterday, how are you going to reduce cost of governance? This cabinet is one of the biggest. I know you've done some reductions before. Are you going to reduce it a little bit more? And he said no.
First of all, he never did any reduction. He had 48 ministers coming in. When he removed 5, he replaced it with 7. So the issue here is that, like I told you, there is a president that is living in alternate universe. He said we must learn to live within our means. We should not be spending more than we are producing. How can a government in a capitalist economy think about bloating cabinet as as the explanation for efficiency?
Well, he says they're performing optimally. Those were his words. They're performing optimally. Everyone there.
Good. That is where I hold the journalists that interrogated him very responsible. Because when he said that, he even dared them to give him an example of one minister that is not performing. And I just told you about a minister. We've had 12 national grid collapse. In 12 months, it has never happened. If that is performance, then it is regrettable. Now, the issue about cost of governance. In a capitalist nation, a minister's role is more of regulatory. because he doesn't go there to do it. There is private ownership to means of production. What are you doing with 3 ministers in agriculture alone? And people are dying because of food. You have just bloated the bureaucracy, spending money on people that are doing nothing. What are you doing with about 16 ministers of state? That is assistant to minister. And you're giving them the largesse.
They won't agree with you.
Of a minister. I am saying it.
They won't agree with you.
Because minister of state means that there is a substantive minister. That's the only reason you say minister of state.
We'll get to that, but I think we're joined by Dr. Taufik Raimi, development expert and business economist and policy analyst. Mr. Raimi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Okay, I want to believe that what we should be looking at, like we do in private sector, is how can we increase productivity? If these people are productive, if your expenditure is 10 million and you generate 25 million, you are productive. The problem is when they are not productive. So that, I think that is from where we should look at it. And again, I must add, the question also to ask is he legal? Is his cabinet legal, or is he violating the constitution? The answer is no.
All right, Dr. Raimi, I'm going to get back to you. I need to come back to Mr. Kenneth Okonkwo in the studio here. One other thing that President talks about, you heard his responses, you can respond when you're giving your response. He talked about the tax reforms. And in fact, we're seeing that as one of the major stories. And most of the newspaper today, he's not going back on those tax reforms. And then he also talked about the service chiefs and security in the country. Just your views on some of the assertions that he made, especially when it comes to the tax reforms. He's not going back. People say these tax reforms are pro-people.
First of all, I listened to the last speaker. And one thing about people who want to parrot the achievements of this government is that they do not speak with facts and quantitative analysis. What figure did he state whatsoever to support any of his analysis? The inflation rate. What is it? Food inflation, more than 40%. I bought the bag of rice that I used 109,000 naira. Now he talked about Buhari's government. The truth is that Tinubu's government has beatified Buhari's government. He inherited 195 naira per litre in terms of fuel. The inflation rate that he inherited, he has doubled it like 100%. So he inherited exchange rate for about 420 naira per dollar from Buhari. Our debts, then we were indebted to about 77 trillion. Now it's about 130-something trillion. This is the president that said, if I remove all subsidy, I will have enough revenue to provide the infrastructure. And this is a president that has removed all the subsidy and is borrowing. He has borrowed more than $15 billion since he came in. Maybe more than Buhari borrowed throughout his 8 years. So when people who speak, the last speaker just came in and just said what President Tinubu said in his presidential chat and gave him a pass mark. In law, when you want to corroborate an evidence, your own evidence will be independent of what is said. Not repeating exactly the same thing the person said, and now say the president called himself excellent, so he should be excellent. That's by the way. When we talk about the tax reforms, Section 146 or thereabout of the tax bill said they were going to increase VAT from 5% to 15%. And yet he said the tax bill is pro-poor. The president said that...
That's because particular segments of society are exempted. Yes. Particular people...
From what? From consumption? You go to the supermarket to buy and you're exempted.
So you're still paying it if you're going to do...
That's what I'm saying. That's consumption tax. The tax you pay for buying things. Do you see somebody and say, oh no, your face looks poor. Please, this VAT is not part of it.
Show me your pay slip.
Good.
So now, an exemption.
And he said it's pro-poor. This is a tax that is 800,000 per annum that they said you are exempted from paying tax. The minimum wage is 70,000 a month. That comes to 840,000 per annum. So nobody is exempted at all from that if it is left like that. And he said it's pro-poor. What is pro-poor? Let me tell you, I support the tax reform bill, not because it is pro-poor, but because it is going to harmonize our tax administration system, so that somebody will not wake up and more than 130-something different agencies, both legal and illegal, will be harassing you along the road. Bring the tax receipt of this, bring the tax receipt. So they are trying to harmonize the tax administration system, whereby maybe only one agency will be collecting all the tax. And then you will now pay your tax, whether it's corporate, personal, this and that. it will make it easy for you to pay. Let's get a tax bill, any tax bill that increases the tax of Nigerians by 1 naira is a bad law.
Dr. Raimi.
Okay, thank you very much for coming back here. I listened to Barrister Okonkwo. You won't expect anything less, from him to antagonize everything the president has done. He's taken. It's his opinion. But while his opinion is his, he should also be mindful not to condemn other people's appraisal. When he talked about statistics, I thought he was saying that I echoed what the president said. The president did not talk about visiting Ibadan or your state to commiserate with the people, the governor of your state, and similar states where this incident has happened. That's my opinion. I also talked about how the government, the president, can also re-energize his cabinet by ensuring that performance evaluation occurs more regularly than it is. Maybe in another 3 months, in another 6 months, he can inject new blood into his system. I also talked about reducing cost of how to reduce cost of governance. So don't let me just dissipate energy in re-emphasizing what I said earlier. It is my considered opinion that when we see what is good, that is also a mark of patriotism. I am a scientist, I'm a development expert, I'm an economist, I know how to quote figures, but I'm also a realist. I want to relate all these figures to the reality of ground. About the tax reform,
yes,
the tax that the president said is it has come to stay. I think it should be supported, but are there areas to be improved upon? Yes. And that is why the issue of negotiation, which the president mentioned, is important. The tax bill is currently before the National Assembly. They will also, I'm sure, the relevant committees will also engage in public hearing. So if people like Okonkwo, our former presidential candidate of Labour, the former presidential candidate of Labour Party, His Excellency Peter Obi, has anything to say, let him also put his thought together, and then they can be argued and debated.
Okay, we are out of time, Mr. Raimi, but just your closing words, Mr. Okonkwo.
Well, my closing words is that this government, this president should listen to the people on the street. Stop listening to people that are telling him he's doing an excellent job. He has done the worst job for any president.
Okay, so these are birthing pains, Mr. Okonkwo. You said we need time.
Yes.
When this baby is born, we will rejoice.
Yes, I've always said it, that when your wife is in labor, no matter how hard the labor is, and eventually gives birth to a monster, you will still not rejoice, even though she has given birth. It's only when she gives birth to a bouncing baby child that you rejoice. If you give birth to a child and it is stillborn, the child is dead, do you rejoice? Anytime this president goes to celebrate on Christmas, a lot of people die. Last year, more than 200 persons died in December when he went to visit on holidays. This year, 70-something persons died. Do you celebrate when people are dying? This year's own is of hunger. No. If this president going on holidays brings about these deaths, let him remain in Abuja. Let's know where our problem is coming from.
Okay, we do have to wrap it up.
Well, simple encapsulation, I will say that the presidential chat heard yesterday came to me as one that is very assertive. The president, His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCMR, spoke with a lot of boldness, confidence, and focus on his Renew Hope agenda. He delved into what he has achieved so far in the last 18 months. He also talked about what currently is at work. And he also mentioned that there are quite a lot of hope for Nigeria to believe in moving forward. He talked about how insecurity has greatly reduced. He cited the example of our citizens being able to travel from one place to the other, particularly on Kaduna Road. He also mentioned about his decision to remove oil subsidy and the effect of that already that his administration has recorded. He also talked about the issue of ministers. The size of his cabinet, which you are just talking about now, that he rooted his decision to retain them based on two factors, efficiency and effectiveness. The president gave quite a lot of confidence as regards other things that his administration has been doing. So I want to believe, honestly, I'm convinced that the president seems to have settled down to the job. Of course, he was prepared for the job. Now he has gotten the mandate, and He has seen some of the challenges that the countries are facing from being an insider rather than looking at it from the outside. So I want to believe that the president's speech rekindle hope among most of Nigerians. Now, definitely, are there areas I'm expecting more? Yes, of course. I'm expecting that there will be enough strategies, effective strategies, realistic strategies towards achieving most of the laudable plans that he has mentioned. So some of these I would want to see ease of doing business being enhanced in 2025 and moving forward.
Dr. Raimi, he's called himself excellent in his performance as president. Do you agree? Is that a justifiable score?
First of all, having been an insider, and he knows the problem he inherited from previous administration, and he knows what he has done, and perhaps he also knows, is convinced about the plans that he has moving forward. He may have judged himself excellent, especially when he talked about, I think where he used the word excellent was especially when he talked about having not had recourse to NMPC in the last 3 months to collect money. Which means that he has stabilized our reserve. He has also created enough, he's growing our revenue base. So I want to believe that I think he has come excellent in a number of his agendas. Of course, there are also a number of some other areas that are work in progress. If you look at the Minister of FCT, the infrastructure work that is already ongoing in the last 18 months, you will say that his administration has scored excellent. If you look at some of the foreign trip he has made and the gains that we are beginning to record in terms of inflow into Nigeria, I think we will say that he has done well. If you look at how he has frontally attacked the issue of insecurity in various ways, maybe he has done well. If you look at the refinery, the private refinery that has come on stream during his own regime, now Nigeria can be proud of refining their own crude through Dangote. I think he has done well. If you look at
let's talk. I want to be able to take them one after the other. When the question about the stampedes came up, you had Mr. Kenneth Okonkwo here saying that, look, he felt like the president had moved the blame away from the fact that there is an existential problem in the country to blaming organizers and Nigerians who couldn't stay well on queues and things like that, and felt that was a bit insensitive on the part of the president. Where do you stand on that?
Yes, my expectation is that maybe our president should have visited Ibadan, or your state when this happened last week, Wednesday. I know he had quite a lot of activities for this period. In fact, you commend him for cancelling his schedule for last Saturday when he heard about the stampede that occurred in Abuja and Anambra. I think he's a passionate president. Let's give it to him. It's just that when he talked about we the citizen, it means that he believes that his government alone cannot do or solve all the problems that are bedeviling us. We require our citizens, you, myself, private sector, to be able to follow certain protocols. I commensurate with the 3 states, as it were, if Abuja is counted as a state, more or less, where this has happened. I don't think he's unmindful or he lacks pity. It's just that it's also saying that even when we commensurate with ourselves, what is it that we should begin to do as citizens? We should have protocol. Each state government should have protocol for large gathering. We should not, when crisis happen, before we start talking of what the government should do, what the people should do, what the organizers should do. So I am even calling for an advertised protocol by each state. In case of you want to hold large gathering, churches, you can see how the number of people that go to churches. We are a very religious country. Churches, other even parties and all that shows our creative industry is becoming very, very rejuvenated, which is good. It's also begin to say that when people go to this place, are their lives safe? Would they go well and come back well? So I think that is what the president is trying to do. So I must not put politics in everything. Of course, politics is everything.
Should the president reduce his cabinet?
The president and his cabinet, I want to say that even in private sector, that some of us have belonged and we have consulted both for private and for public sector, the underlying philosophy is always efficiency. It doesn't necessarily mean that if you have you reduce to your cabinet is cabinet to 10, it will perform optimally. It does not also mean that if you increase it to 47 or 50 as it were, they are too low. I think the underlying philosophy should be efficiency, effectiveness, performance evaluation. What is it that they are supposed to do? What are their KPI? And what are they doing? And we want to see our president not waiting for another 1 year, even before he make judgment about the performance of his cabinet. I want to see like what is done in private sector within 6 months, what we call probation period.
I mean, that's a very interesting dynamic, Mr. Raimi. The fact that they moved the conversation, at least he moved the conversation, and you're doing it right now, moving the conversation to the efficiency of the cabinet. But the question really was about reducing the cost of governance.
No,
are there ways that the president should reduce the cost? You can keep efficiency while you reduce the cost of governance, or is that an impossibility?
Okay, let me tell you some of the factors or ways by which the cost of governance can be reduced, even if you retain the size of your cabinet. Because after all, how much are these ministers being paid? Of course. So if you can reduce the size of governance, one, by eliminating repetitive budget items and ministries. Every year you see ministry budgeting for vehicles, whereas a vehicle should not just have its life cycle as 1 year. So you can reduce. In fact, you will gain so much by reducing cost of lithography. People buy paper, they buy photocopiers, even travels. I was listening to one of his aides yesterday saying that he had only traveled only twice this year. And that is the senior special advisor to the president on economic matters, Dr. Tope Fasua. He was on another station, your sister's station yesterday. So twice in a year is not much.
So guys, these are the things we keep saying about the reality on ground and how detached these people are from the reality. You can see that there is a real disconnect from the people when it comes to the relationship between the leaders and the led. There is a whole lot of disconnect. These people do not even understand what it takes in a Nigerian to survive in today's Nigeria. I mean, the rich are crying, let alone the poor. The rich in Nigeria are crying, not to talk of the poor who live from hand to mouth. Some of them don't know where their next meal is going to come from. And that is why so many people have taken to criminality. And instead of Tinubu giving hope to the people, telling Nigerians how he's going to resolve the issues on ground, guess what? Tinubu is telling us that, we should go and learn management. Can you imagine? We should go and learn management. Even the APC Onokpasa could not stand what Tinubu said. He said Tinubu has failed. He said it openly on a national television that this is massive failure from the part of this government. Onokpasa has once said he's a Catholic, that he's not ready to stand for evil. He's not going to defend evil. And he has always called out this government. It wasn't like initially when Tinubu won election that he couldn't speak. Now Onokpasa has realized that when you keep lying, just know that you have to keep lying to defend the initial lies. But this time around, he's standing for the truth and he has said it the way it is. Just look at it for yourself. So guys, you have seen it. These are the things we keep saying, that this country is our country. And we cannot just leave it at the hands of these few politicians to destroy. Yes, they said they are going to crack down on people who insult them, because they don't want anybody to criticize their worst leadership style like we've seen today. They don't want you to come after them. They don't want you to speak up. They don't want you to add your view. They just want you to be a moron, to be a mumu, so that they will just be, manipulating you and be sucking you at the same time, like we've seen today. Check it out. Since Tinubu came in, he has no plan to fight corruption. He has no plan to recover all the stolen debt. He has no plan to make this country have strong institutions. Tinubu is not talking about those ones, because you cannot give what you don't have. Tinubu cannot talk about fighting corruption when he knows that when you are pointing one finger at somebody, the other ones are pointing directly back at you. Tinubu cannot talk about oil theft. Tinubu cannot talk about how to block the leakages. Tinubu cannot fight corruption, because what? He knows that people will fire him and expose him the more. So guys, these are some of the things we keep saying. I wish that we'll have leaders that really know what it means to bring a country out from dungeon and set that country on a hill. so that that country will become a light for other countries. And that is what we are hoping that God is going to do for this country. So guys, that is it. Let me know what you think about all this. You have heard what Mr. Kenneth Okonkwo said. You have heard what Onokpasa said. Even the last person that came to speak was speaking in favor of the government. But guess what? Kenneth Okonkwo knows that what that man is saying is a lie. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others. And drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you.